Hi, welcome back. I'm Claire. I'm a high school art teacher with 17 years of experience, and I want to share with you one of my favorite activities to do at the start of the year or start of the semester. It's a good icebreaker, and it is a very classic drawing activity. Very simple materials, including a marker, just some regular copy paper, and some old shoes. So this will be a demonstration of a contour line exercise, which is a great way to get your students to notice the details in their subject and to not focus so much on what ends up on the paper. So I'm going to walk you through each of the steps, and I hope you do this with your students. They make great drawings to hang up and show your community right afterwards, and a fun way to get students engaged and working with one another. The first step is you need to find a collection of shoes. I found mine at the Goodwill outlet, also known as the bins. This is where you can pay per pound, and it makes it much more economical. I intentionally looked for lone shoes without partners. That way I wasn't taking anything away from somebody who wanted to use these as shoes. And I got a wide variety of shoes, boots, high heels, all sorts of things that would be visually interesting for my students to draw. To set up the room for this activity, I set out a shoe at each seat along with a piece of white paper. I used just regular copy paper for this. Each table also has a variety of colored markers. I like these Crayola Super Tips. They're my favorite brand. And then you're all ready to go. Once students enter the classroom, we look at some slides together and I explain the different types of contour drawing. We also try some pure or blind contour drawings together in our sketchbooks using the shoes as a reference. I also go over the group contour drawing activity and model it for my students. The way this works is that students move around the table in a clockwise direction, and at each seat they do a pure or blind contour drawing of the shoe in front of them. I typically give students around 35 to 45 seconds to complete each drawing, and they draw right on top of the drawing that their classmates made. So only the student and their marker moves as they rotate around the table. This results in these beautifully layered drawings, and I find since the drawings are drawn right on top of one another, students aren't as worried about what their individual drawing looks like, and they can enter into that pure observation. That is what makes this such a skill building and important activity when learning to draw. And I do find that students, the first few, have a little trouble focusing, but as we make our way around the table, they get a chance to do 4 or 5 pure contour drawings, and they really get into the flow of this. At the end, we walk around and look at everybody's drawings and get a sense of what each other noticed, what we were able to get down on the paper, and then we start to move into the second part of this activity. I teach block periods, so I will have my students for 85 minutes. And so for the second part of this activity, we focus a bit more on concepts like line weight, and students also practice some continuous line drawings where they can look at their paper, but they cannot lift the marker. Once students have had some practice, I give everyone a large sheet of paper that is around 11 by 17, and students can create a regular contour drawing where they're allowed to look at their paper, they're allowed to lift up their pencil, but I really do encourage students to not rely too much on erasing, but instead to draw lightly and then to go over and darken the lines and increase the line weight. These contour drawing sketches come out so beautifully, and I really encourage my students to make these large and to take up the entire sheet of paper, which is usually a challenge for beginners, but students are very proud of these, and it really does take them through a full contour drawing lesson. If you want to do this with your students, check the description where there are helpful links, including a link to this slideshow that you can edit to suit your needs. Thanks so much for joining me today to learn about this contour line group drawing activity. If you try this out in your classroom, make sure to find me over on Instagram at Artful Ideas Classroom and tag me because I'd love to see what your students created. And I'll see you in the next video.